Recently, one of the most unfortunate and cosmically unlucky strings of controversy and failures have haunted one of the biggest hopes of Valorant over the last 2 seasons. That being the creator-owned DSG, with Disguised Toast having to face so many ups and downs from internal conflicts with their megastar, to huge cheats, even some possible criminal match fixing, all since he started in esports org just at the beginning of last year. So is this team cursed? Let's dive into the history of this org and Valorant, as well as chronicle every controversy surrounding them. But one thing that's not controversial is subscribing to this channel and turning on notifications. Just a few videos back, I thanked y'all for 7,000 subscribers, and we already passed 8,000, which blows my mind. So I'm just gonna keep uploading as many interesting videos I can to get us past 10,000. So if you can help out and make sure you're subscribed for real, that would really help. So Disguised Toast announced that he'd be launching an esports org to compete in North American Valorant towards the end of 2022 during the offseason, with him at the same time announcing that he'd be taking over the Knights roster, which finished in the middle of the pack in the season before's challengers. But the main switch for this roster would be the addition of veteran NAIGL Steel to lead the team into 2023. Previously, he had helped lead a 100 Thieves team to top 4 finish in Masters Berlin and looked to be a good leader to elevate this team out of middleness, especially as they had a number of young players such as their duelist Clear and Ziff and Genghsta who rose up with Knights. But more about Genghsta later in the video. So it would be interesting to see how having Steel leading this team with Ocean as head coach would be. And ultimately, when the team was announced, it took the Valorant world by storm, especially thanks to the unique and basic graphic designing for this team, all created by Toast himself in MS Paint. So while the team wasn't the most frightening on paper in Tier 2 North America, there were still high hopes and expectations for this roster as they went into the open qualifiers for challengers. And they didn't disappoint, as they came out swinging, winning 7 matches in a row, with Clear on entry looking like one of the best in the region, and Steel's mid-round calling looking better than anyone else in the qualifiers, as they are now qualified as one of the 12 now competing in challengers for the rest of the season, already making Toast's investment more legitimate as a true Tier 2 org. But there'd be no rest for this team, as every match matters, as they strive to qualify for the mid-season face-off, where serious circuit points would be up for grabs, something they needed to make sure that they at least kept their spot in Tier 2 and gave themselves a shot at qualifying for Ascension to play in the franchise league, the ultimate goal of all challengers teams. And while they struggled against some of the more well-known teams like the Guard or M80, they were able to stay in the top 3 of their group by winning against some of the lower teams like Mad Lions or OR to finish 2 and 3, just making it to the face-off, where they would be finally able to show how good they truly are. But that wasn't how it went down, as they just were clearly not at the same level as the top Tier 2 teams, as they were absolutely destroyed by M80 and TSM, with their cracks starting to be very evident, as their ceiling as a roster was quickly approaching already. With those 2 losses, it was clear that the current roster wouldn't cut it after being so humiliated, so a change needed to be made before Split 2 started. And that is when everything went insane for DSG, completely changing the landscape of Tier 2 Valorant. The former best in the game and esports player of the year, JayH, joined DSG, taking over Ziff's spot on the team, as Clear switched away from Duelist to make room for El Diablo, with hope now revitalized yet again and expectations launched back to the stratosphere with Split 2 coming up. As with JayH, it looked like making Ascension just might be in the cards, but little did everyone know at the time how cursed this partnership would be, as this might have been when DSG and Disguised Toast were really cursed, as JayH had already had his fair share of controversy before joining the team, as after signing a proposed $1 million contract with Cloud9, after only 2 games into the season, he was let go, pretty much ruining his chances to compete in the inaugural franchise season. So competing with DSG and challengers seemed like the best option for both parties, as JayH could smurf against Tier 2 players, and Disguise could automatically shoot up to the top of the league and truly compete with the best of the best in their region. But this is when the curse happened, as this is not how the rest of the season went, as they couldn't win a match to save their lives, as right from the moment JayH joined the team, it looked like the team got even worse, as even though JayH played fine, the set plays and team cohesion were so inconsistent, with players regularly just peaking for 1v1s rather than working as a team, leading them to start losing to teams that they could have beat last split, with them going 0-5, winning only 2 maps the entire event. As they were now not just missing their chance to compete to make Ascension, but were now going to have to fight to even stay in Tier 2 Valorant, as they'll have to play in the relegation matches while the rest of the challengers fights in the playoffs. But even though they had played so poorly thus far, they just needed to win 2 matches to stay alive, and against the worst teams in the region. They wouldn't actually be relegated with the former best player in the world, right? Well, they were eliminated to end last, not even picking up a map against their 2 opponents, to be officially kicked out of challengers, being forced to try and fight through the open qualifiers yet again to compete in Tier 2 next season, officially ending their year as the worst team in NA challengers. And while at the time we just saw the poor play on the server, during this massive losing streak to relegation, there was a lot of dysfunction and drama in private between players on the team that would only be revealed recently by Genghsta on Twitter, as he posted a short clip from a scrim they had against Loud.
Somebody, what? Fuck,
right, I'm dogging.
I'm gonna throw. Oh, fuck, man.
Smoke now. Rolex smoke at B.
Okay, you can fucking laugh all you want, bro, but it's so tilting when you make the same fucking mistakes in matches.
Genghsta decided to post this clip almost a year after they were relegated because of all the issues surrounding JayH now with Bleed, as they continue to underperform with him on the roster and their former IGL calling him out for not practicing enough, something JayH refuted. Along with Genghsta leaking that clip, he also released a screenshot of a conversation between him and DSG's coach Ocean that supposedly discussed how JayH tried to bribe Ocean with $10,000 to bench Genghsta. Overall, this insane drama released by Genghsta about the dysfunction happening behind the scenes just plays into why this losing streak was so tragic, shedding some light on why this team looked so flat and uncoordinated, even though they had world-class talent coming off of a Masters win just a year before. But after they were relegated, they disbanded the roster. But this wasn't the only curses in Disguised's first year as an esports owner. During the middle of the collapse of DSG and the whole JayH issue, Disguised decided to field a Game Changers team as well, which at first had a number of Valorant streamers such as Kaide and Quarter Jade, but then built a more serious roster where they qualified for the main event in North America in Series 2, where they finished in an incredible 3rd place, marking a real high for the org after the failure that was the main DSG roster. And there seemed to be a lot of promise for them as they qualified for the final regional event of Game Changers, where whoever wins will compete for the World Championship in Sao Paulo. And they really had a chance, but then the curse that had been hanging around DSG decided to strike again, as they lost to Newt 1-2 in a close match with surprise player Malibu top fragging for the team, especially when it mattered most in overtime on map 3, to win and end up sending them down to the elimination bracket, where they couldn't bounce back, falling out of the tournament in dead last, ending their season abruptly after having their hopes so high. But then, the next day, while Newt were facing off against Complexity to survive elimination, Riot stopped the game after map 2 as Vanguard detected some sort of cheat on Newt's Breakout Stars client. Malibu and the rest of Newt were disqualified from the match, eliminating them from the tournament. And while people begged for DSG to be allowed to return to the tournament, as there's no knowing if Malibu was cheating in that match as well, Riot decided against it, as it would really cause a mess in the bracket, and ultimately DSG got the short end of the stick, remaining out even after being eliminated by an unknown cheater. And while the roster played one last tournament together, they disbanded by the end of the year, leaving DSG completely out of Valorant, as he looked completely cursed in the sport. But here's something about Toast. He's determined to stay in the Valorant esport no matter what, as he announced before the season started that he would be starting another Valorant team, but this time in Indonesia, a scene that could definitely use the support and focus that having a big creator like Disguised would bring. And even better, they're going to be partnered up with the recently ascended Bleed Esports to almost be like an academy team, where they actually had their rising star Juicy join, as he wasn't old enough to play in the VCT, as you have to be 18, but not in the regional leagues. So everything was looking up for Disguised and DSG, as they could cut down on some expenses as they get to use the vacant Bleed facilities while they're away playing in the Pacific League. And right away, with this well put together roster of Singaporean talent, they qualified through the open qualifiers for the regional Split 1 tournament, where they went 5-2, finishing 2nd in the standings, just behind an orgless roster that all came together from other top Malaysian and Singaporean rosters. And while they were eliminated by that same team in the Split 1 playoffs to finish in 3rd, there seems to be a lot of promise for this roster, as they continue to grow more cohesion with a map pool that looks on par or even better than everyone else, with Juicy looking like the best in the region when he's on it. So as they started to go through their break before Split 2, some breaking news that just might shatter this team was dropped recently, being the biggest part of the curse so far. One of their players, JayH, is now being investigated under suspicion of betting on his games. And while at this time I can't confirm or deny if that's true, this has shaken the core of DSG yet again, just as things started to look up for them. He has for now been suspended as Riot conducts an investigation, but there's belief that he bet on himself to win while he was on NIP last year, and even worse, he lost. But this overall is just another cursed moment for DSG in less than 2 years of launching, as it seems like they'll have to find a replacement for JayH, as even if he's ultimately found innocent, Split 2 will most likely start soon, and this investigation could take an untold amount of time. So DSG will have to make a mid-season switch, and hopefully not miss a step as they try to break into the very top of the region, and hopefully be able to be the team to qualify for the Ascension tournament. But this event just might be too much for this roster full of young and inexperienced talent. They'll now have to adjust on the fly. Also, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on a single video throughout the Valorant season.